Welcome back to Long Delays Hobbies. Today I am going to be painting up a Haradrim warrior. This is a characterful warrior sculpt from Games Workshop. The good thing about these sculpts is you can use your imagination, paint them up using a number of different colors. I'm going to be painting mine up using a black, purple, red color palette. Let's get started on him. I'm going to be starting using Corvus Black Air. I'm going to be using that on his black, on his cloak. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have saved the black for last, because it did make it difficult when I was going back over the purples and reds to see where I had painted after this paint had dried. But as always, with miniature painting, hindsight is 20/20. I used Mephiston Red to paint his pants, as well as the top area, just the top area of his garb. I used Xereus Purple then to go over to his little belt, his sash that connects and holds together his pants. For his armor plating, I used Retributor Armour to give it that gold look. He also has a bit of armor behind his head. I used Retributor Armour for that. At least I interpreted that to be armor. It does flare quite high. Now for his skin, I used a base of Bugman's Glow. I wanted to give him kind of a dusky tone, which I'm going to do some further work on that later, but Bugman's Glow is what I started with. There's not a ton of exposed skin on these miniatures, just the hands and face. Now for his staff that he's holding, I used Steel Legion Drab. For the Archer miniatures, I also used this on the bow. For the little wrappings around his feet and his arms, I used Rakarth Flesh. Now this is just a base. I'm going to go back over this with a wash later and make it look a bit more natural, because it's going to give the appearance of like a dirty cloth when I'm done with it. I also use Rakarth Flesh for the little bit of cloth that connects his staff to the metal on his staff. So for the same reason, it's going to be a dirty cloth once it's done with it. Speaking of metal, once I decided to work on that, I used Leadbelcher Air. This is the only metal on this miniature, since he decides not to wear any silver metal. So we're going to paint that with Leadbelcher. This particular miniature has some bone bits that connect out of the side of his staff. I base coated those with some Zandri Dust. And finally for his shoes, I used Abaddon Black. I also used that for his little goatee and facial hair. About half of these miniatures have facial hair, so you can use Abaddon Black for that. And for the little bits of gems that are on his little breastplate there, I use Teclis Blue to paint them blue. Some miniatures have more of these gems than others. Some of them have it on their little turban, some of them have it on their back. So just look around and pick that out. I washed the purple bits with Druchii Violet. And the red and brown bits, as well as the Rakarth Flesh bits, I used Agrax Earthshade. Now, one trick I've used for the Haradrim warriors was also to wash the flesh in Agrax Earthshade. Normally I would use Reikland Flesh Shade, but I found that using Agrax Earthshade gives them a more of a dusky look. Now, for the breastplate, as well as the little bits of horn/bone, I used Vallejo Sepia Shade. I'm sure you could use the Citadel equivalent, but Vallejo is just what I happen to have on hand. The sepia wash really makes the gold have that burnished look to it. And for the silver and black parts of the miniature, I just wash them in Nuln Oil. And now we can start our highlighting. So we're going to go over the black parts of the miniature first with some Eshin Grey. Now, in this particular miniature, the black is the primary color. So I just went around, looked for all the different folds and places that would stand out, and just put a little line on those folds to make sure those folds and places that would catch the light would stand out. For the little bits of red, I used Wazdakka Red. Wazdakka Red doesn't stand out quite as much as Eshin Grey does over black, but I did want to have a little bit of highlighting over the red parts of the miniature. And for the purple bits, I used Genestealer Purple. This is a very, very bright purple compared to Xereus Purple, so I tried not to be too heavy-handed with it. I might have even been too heavy-handed with it here. And to go over the flesh, I used Cadian Fleshtone because I felt like I needed to bring that skin tone back up. But I definitely wanted to leave that Agrax undertone still visible to get that slightly darker skin tone in place. And lastly, I wanted to brighten up those horns that are on his staff a little bit, so I used Ushabti Bone. But I still left the Sepia Shade closer to the base of the horns. And now we have a completed Haradrim Warrior after some basing work. And it looks like he is now ready to march on to the fields of the Pelennor. Thank you very much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it. I will be posting the list of paints that I used into the video description. Again, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Take care.